Barry, very good morning to you. I suppose the question is, are retailers being put off? I mean, does size matter in terms of retail?
Morning, Ian. I guess a retailer will have their standard footprint and their standard layout and trading format. And the challenge we have is to try and meet those standard formats in a city like Dublin, a historic city.
Anybody walking down Grafton Street will see you have some big stores, the likes of Brown Thomas, the likes of Marks and Spencer, and then it gets down to really small individual units. How has it gotten that way? Has it just been the layout of the street?
Yeah, exactly. It's a medieval city, and it's a medieval streetscape, and that's what we're dealing with. And it's the beauty of Dublin. It's the charm. It's what makes it what it is. So it's what we have to work within.
But is it putting off the big international retailers? Are we forcing them into the out-of-town centres?
Well, it's a very good point. Size definitely matters, and we've seen that consistently. We saw it during the summer when the former Aware unit came available, and there were upwards of 8 international brands chasing that store and bidding on that store, which was incredibly encouraging for the market, but it was a real sign that once you bring a store of approximately 10,000 square feet to the market, it's so unique that people awaken from their slumber and get actively involved.
Do we have to look at, when shops come off leases, whether they should start looking at renovating them to make them bigger, or is the size optimal at the moment? There's a great opportunity at the moment with values a little bit lower, and I think that's encouraging landlords to look at combining stores and making larger footprints available. Again, coming back to what we saw in the summer, we saw a really, really significant step forward in rent and rental value on that particular store, 2627 Grafton Street, where the rent eventually achieved, was about 20 or 25% ahead of what the previous comparison was. So again, size really drove on the rental values. Are there a flood of international retailers, the big brands that would like to get into Dublin but they can't because there's restrictions in Grafton Street and the streets around it?
What we're currently seeing, which I think personally is really encouraging, is existing retailers or people who have existing trading exposure to Ireland looking to either upsize or take on new opportunities. And that might be in a sub-brand or a co-brand. Again, that particular shop in Grafton Street was taken by a brand within the H&M group and other stories. And again, you've had a recent public statement by Inditex that they'd like to expand their brand format in Ireland. So these guys are there and seeking to expand. Yes, in the past we have seen some significant brands move to out-of-town shopping centres first, but there's always a desire to get back into the city centre if it can be accommodated.
I'm looking at the Irish Times this morning in its commercial property section. They have the former National Irish Bank headquarters on the corner of College Green there. That's been let to H&M and it's going to open soon enough. Now they're saying, look, it is still Grafton Street, but it is a little bit off. Are people looking at the side streets around Grafton Street and saying, look, there's the opportunity for redevelopment into bigger formats?
Yeah, absolutely. College Green was something we were involved in from start to finish, and that was a real case of exactly that. H&M wanted a flagship format store in South Dublin, and we're prepared to compromise somewhat on location by moving off the main street to get it. So yes, absolutely, we've seen it again. We've recently let a shop to Nespresso on Duke Street. I think there's a real opportunity now for infill development off that main street. We saw it back in the boom years with South King Street, where Zara and H&M went there. And yes, all those tributary streets to Grafton Street, where there are opportunities to create larger footprints, I think that's absolutely in play.
There was a time when Grafton Street was the 5th most expensive street in the world to rent a shop on. How have rents done in the last couple of years?
Yeah, well thankfully, I think that's now changed. And I think we're back very much competitive in a European context. Rents would have come back by 60% from those peak levels, but they are beginning to creep upwards. But there's definitely, I think, one of the positive things we're seeing is that each shop is attracting a rent that it should attract. There's no groupthink anymore. And as I mentioned there, in the summer where we had a 10,000 square foot shop hit the market, its rent outperformed that of smaller stores, which I think is right. That's the way any functioning street should work.
There's been a lot of development on Grafton Street. There has been the repaving. Has it worked for retailers, or were they put off over the summer by the fact that there was lots of disruption?
Yeah, well, I think, again, there was the challenge during the work, but generally speaking, I think there's buy-in to the street and there's a lot of confidence about the city centre. I think retailers are extremely confident about the Christmas ahead, and hopefully it proves to be as good as the predictions are saying it will be.
And before we let you go, Larry, anything new coming on in and around Dublin in the next couple of months?
Well, they're in terms of the street, in terms of new openings. Yeah. No, there's nothing too dramatic. I suppose my job is to go off and try and find new brands. The big thing we have next week is the International Council of Shopping Centres Conference in New York. So that's a really important leasing meeting for us, where we hear what new brands are moving around the world. We hear which US brands are now prepared to look at Europe and which US brands are prepared to look at Ireland. Some have opened in the UK recently. We've seen American Eagle open in the UK 2 weeks ago. And I suppose my job and what I have to strive to do for my clients is try and get these brands committed to Ireland as well. OK, Larry Brennan, Director of Commercial at Savills, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We're back in a couple of minutes.
Breakfast Business, brought to you by Grant Thornton, the